broadcast network, AFTERBUZZ TV. Over 20 million weekly downloads in over 150 countries, and your #1 source for after-show entertainment. AFTERBUZZ TV, the destination for TV superfans. Producing after-shows for over 300 of your favorite TV shows. Interviewing celebrities and showrunners. And bringing you behind-the-scenes exclusives. All thanks to E! Entertainment's Maria Menounos, producer Kevin Undergaro, and internet leader Akamai. Now, let the buzz begin!
That's the background for my entire life.
Let's go, everybody. It's the AFTERBUZZ TV After Show for Billions Season 1, Episode 7, entitled The Punch. And we have the Rocky theme to lead us off, of course. I am your lead host, Frank Maiorana. You can find me on Twitter and Instagram at Let's Go Frank M. I am joined by my wonderful panel. First of all, the world's best goalie.
Yes.
It is Andrea Fasano.
Hey guys, Andrea Fasano here, and you can find me on all social media at Andy Fasano.
And JB Zimmerman.
Yeah, you guys can find me at Hey John Blake.
We are without Alina Vision tonight. She isn't feeling well. Alina, we miss you. Hope you're feeling better.
Get well soon.
Andrea is crying.
Don't worry, girl.
But you're sad that she's not.
I love her. Yeah,
okay.
Totally. And we always have the same opinions about things. So I'm sure she's gonna have a lot with this episode.
Absolutely, and it was an awesome episode. Sort of a resetting of the show to get us prepared for the second season, and it was called The Punch. So I just want to get into it right away, talking about The Punch. I loved it when he hit Bruce.
Oh, for sure.
I loved it. I mean, did either of you think, oh no, we probably shouldn't have hit him there?
No.
Well, I mean, this episode for me was really like acts as like a dad. It was a very family episode all around, and it was nice to see him sort of take things into control and really show like who he is, where he comes from again. We had that a lot in the beginning of the season, kind of got away from it when everything got very technical and logistical, but it's great to see sort of where he comes from and how much of a badass he is.
Did you like the punch?
Love the punch.
Okay.
Love the punch.
I thought as soon as he took off from Lara and that whole scene, I was like, no, don't do it. But the guy deserved the punch. Like
Absolutely.
the actual punch, actually absolutely deserved.
Yeah.
But I was like, you're leaving he's straight out of the pool, no shoes, no shirt, no problem. So
exactly.
I mean, he just took off. I thought that was a little axe, it was very in line with him, but
yeah, that's true. Well, and remember, he's coming off of the deal, where he tore up a check and threw it off. So I think we saw some carryover energy from all that going down. But I was rooting him on. I'm glad he did it. Our viewers were too. So I want to start with our social media shout outs. Make sure you guys are using the hashtag ABTV Billions out there online on Twitter and Instagram and on our YouTube page. We'll go through your comments and read what we find most valuable to start off the show. So we have a super fan who is Denise. She's great, and actually she live tweets throughout the episode and uses that hashtag as we're going along. So she just had some really good things to say. I want to get into couples in a minute, but she said, oh yes, we've all been around those couples who are too disgustingly in love. Okay, fair enough, Denise. I hope you find some love like that out there every once in a while. But she also liked the punch as well. So, the question for me on this was, have we gotten to this point in the country now where one punch on a guy who deserved it is causing all these problems for you? It was sort of sad to me to see Bobby have to go through all that when he was completely justified as to what was going on. But do you think it's more of a function of him being a high-profile figure as to why something so minuscule would hit him?
I'm so glad you brought that idea up of us being too sensitive, of just the world and everybody being a little overly sensitive, and you owe me kind of deal.
Exactly.
But I absolutely think that whole situation was mostly because he's a billionaire and he's Axelrod, and you can even get the foreshadowing of that with the guy giving the kids a little bit of a problem at the gaming zone,
Yeah, well, Bruce, and the real issue I had, and what you just said made me think of this, was that his initial reaction after getting punched was not to say I'm sorry, was not to say, take ownership of his actions, but to say, you're gonna pay for that. Mm-hmm. I mean, I think that's so cheap. Don't you, Jimmy?
It's like someone who hits your car and you're just, you know, like, oh, my neck.
Right.
Yeah.
Even if it was a bump, you know?
Well, it's crazy how when things get more high profile like that, like it kind of reverts back to being such a child about it. You know, you would think as you get older, like, you know, we are adult enough to handle things, but once you get past a certain level, like I guess into fame or success, you know, people want to take advantage of that, and it just reverts them back to, again, like he was like, oh, I'm going to tell on you. Like, that's like the most childish thing ever.
Exactly. And I think that's a brilliant point. You know, when you see somebody who has money, the temptation is to go after them. I read so many stories about lottery winners going bankrupt because so many people come and ask them for money. So sort of sad commentary on what's going on societally.
Yeah.
But, you know, you mentioned children, and we had a lot going on in this episode with Axelrod's kids, them being the rich kids, and they're sitting eating omelets, you know, and they don't want the omelets together, or they don't want to eat the omelets for breakfast, which reminded me of our sponsor this week, which is Blue Apron. It's a great transition point for that because it reminded me Chef Ryan's making great food for them, and you can kind of do the same thing at home with Blue Apron. It can be
you don't have to be a billionaire.
You don't have to be a billionaire. Actually, they're really cheap. It's a cool and creative gift to give to someone you like, or you don't like. You can give people you don't like too. And imagine how happy they'd be when they got home from an exhausting day at work and all the ingredients to a delicious, healthy dinner was right there waiting for them. I mean, you guys know everybody's living crazy, busy lives today.
Yeah.
I work 2 jobs. I get home late, and you know it's nice to, you know, people to have the food there ready to eat as soon as you make it.
And it's different food too. It's not the same thing every time, so you're getting a little change up.
Yeah, exactly right.
Which is
so
nice to your diet.
You can help out people like myself and Andrea, and JB's busy too, I know, by getting them a subscription to Blue Apron, or, you know, someone who just had a baby and can't even get out of the house, or maybe newlyweds who want to pop open a bottle of wine and cook a romantic meal together. It's a great date idea.
That's such a good idea.
I think that's a really good date idea. Andrea is happy to accept any guys
Oh my God,
who
here we
want
go.
to buy her a Blue Apron meal.
I'll try it.
And do it together. You guys can cook
Just
together.
bring the wine.
Just bring the wine.
Wine
A good
has
wine.
to come with that one.
What's your favorite wine?
I think I'm a cab person.
You're a cab.
Good call.
Yeah.
Good call.
good.
I support
Thanks,
that.
JB. He
I
supports my
approve.
decision.
Approve.
Well, Blue
Proceed.
Apron is a gift they're guaranteed to love because Blue Apron provides the ingredients and instructions how to make amazing meals for less than $10 per meal. And get this, each meal can be prepared in 40 minutes or less. Plus, Blue Apron has meals for all dietary needs. You can make dishes like chicken cacciatore, perfect Italian dish for us, or kimchi and barley miso ramen right in your own kitchen. You cook with ingredients that you've never used before, and the recipes are between 500 and 700 calories per person, or per portion. Delicious and good for you. So right now you can get your first 2 meals for free at blueapron.com/podcast.
That's awesome.
That's blueapron.com/podcast. Blue Apron, a better way to cook. And the omelets reminded me of that while they were going through the
Yeah,
episode.
definitely.
But toughening up Axe's kids. I thought this was an important story point. And again, JB, like you were talking about before, family, you know, Axe in the father role. How do you think he handled, you know, toughening up his kids this episode?
I think he did a good job. I mean, obviously we can talk about the end.
Yeah, sure, go ahead.
Coming in as the hero to save the kids, because I think, you know, there is a limit. I mean, you should teach them, you know, everything, and to be humble. And I think the mom Laura had the right idea. Like, they can't just be spoiled and sending back their omelets every day because you know, just because they have it every day.
From the chef that's making it for you in your own kitchen.
Exactly. You know,
But I think that has to do with manners too. Like, they didn't even, like she said, you have to say sorry. Like, hello.
Yeah.
And speak up.
Exactly.
Say, hey, Chef Brian, I don't want an omelet today.
Yeah,
Sorry.
they could have requested something else.
That's true.
100, no, that's a great
Clearly,
point.
we know how I
Great
feel
point.
about these kids in this episode.
But kids aren't they aren't requesters, right? They're pleasers, and unless something bothers them and it boils up, and then they let it all out in a complaining fashion, you know, they aren't going to request that. But I like that Lara stepped up and said,
I think that was very necessary.
We need to toughen up these kids, and she taught them in the most Richie, East Coast Hamptons kind of like, well, you have to bury your feet in the sand and find clams for us to eat. Like, come on, like make them go take out the garbage or mow the lawn or something.
Well, yeah, actually, that's part of the reason that it made it more realistic for me, because it wasn't like, okay, you guys are gonna go pick up trash like on the side of the road in like orange vests. You know, it was still something that I could see them doing, something that she had done, and you know, knew what it gave her and her life and everything around that. So there was a real reason, and I think that it made it a lot more authentic to how she was kind of coming across. I mean, maybe she should have started raising them like that from the get-go.
Younger, but I don't think she realized it.
Right. Things kind of got away. I mean, they're still young.
They're still young, yeah.
But, you know, they are, it reminded me of Talladega Nights. Like, they were just, like, getting out of control. And it was just like, okay, you know, there should be a limit. I mean, that doesn't say that they're bad parents, but they should be more aware of how that life as billionaires is going to affect them. They definitely don't want to raise kids that are crazy. And Axe, I think, would be all people should know that, because he grew up from humble beginnings.
Yeah.
Right. I would say, to your point, I kind of agree with you for the most part, but also the whole clamming thing, that's actually like a really old school, like fisherman and along those lines, like that kind of job and workforce, you know, if you call that.
Is that right? Okay.
Yeah, I think that especially on the East Coast, and especially even Italians, right? Like my grandfather used to go clamming and that kind of thing, and I think that it's along those lines of that kind of working for your food.
Yes.
Aside from that, I really did love that she brought up that they are not street smart, and that she's actually worried about, God forbid something happens to the family and to Axe's company, they might have to live a little less, you know, below their means of what they are right now.
Right, they're used to.
Yeah, and so I thought that was an awesome, maybe foreshadowing again, but that she's worried about that, and obviously she's thinking about it.
Absolutely, and they a different position in life now because of the success. It's a curse in a way, because the kids grow up having everything provided for them. There's no real struggle money-wise for the family. They seem to have a strong marriage, so the problems and the struggles that the boys are exposed to are rather minimal. And so you're exactly right. And they don't speak up when they see Bruce drunk.
Right.
And it's scary, I think, for her, because what if they were to get abducted and there were warning signs there beforehand and could be held for ransom? That's a very scary thought, and I think that's playing into her mind as she's going through this whole experience with the boys. Now, of course, Axe comes at the end of the episode and blows up the whole idea. Which, in fairness, it actually reminded me of my own life. My dad used to sneak my brother and I downstairs to play Nintendo late at night after my mom had went to bed.
Nice.
Of course, we had only found out later that he'd always asked my mom permission first.
That's a good dad.
That's
a good husband.
Cool.
Sneaky, yeah.
You know,
but what do you think about that then? Because you might have a different opinion than I do. I thought that was wrong.
What, for
I
Axe
don't
to
like
do
that
that?
Axe came and took them.
I think...
And I don't like that the kid lied about the cell phone, which I get it.
Well, no, I mean,
kid.
I see that I actually did like. I mean, because I sort of remember being a kid, and you are, I mean, they don't know everything. That's clear. But I think kids oftentimes are much smarter than we give them credit for.
Right.
And the fact that he was able to like realize where the situation was going, he was like, "Oh, I'm not gonna bring out my phone because I'm gonna lose it."
Right.
Is a savvy play. Like he should be awarded the ability to like keep his games, you know, on the camping trip. Like. I mean, obviously they do need to learn lessons about being with other people and the social elements of all that. But, you know, one phone, like during camping trips, is not going to change that.
That's true, but I like that families put the phones away, you know, when you're eating dinner or you're trying to connect with your surroundings instead of your screen. It's very easy to fall into that trap.
Yeah.
I'm sure in our own lives to just disconnect from everybody else and just focus on what's going on your phone.
Definitely.
But also, look, he used it to cry for help instead of,
That's true.
not for nothing, going through the proper channels of calling the counselor, saying, be like, can you call my dad? I'm not happy. Like, something like that.
Yeah.
I just feel like that teaches more, even just in social economic world, like
Yeah.
just a
Yeah,
social.
no, I mean,
you know?
I think they definitely could have handled the night
Yeah.
in camping, but
Well,
like,
why would he
again,
think about him taking them?
well,
for milkshake?
it was so late at night, like they're just
You're
gonna
not giving
sleep.
them a chance. You think they're gonna
Well,
return?
no,
them?
they spent all day there. I mean, like, so would they really learn that much sleeping and sleeping?
No,
bags?
they're
Like,
learning that Daddy will bail us out of any situation.
I don't think
No,
that's
I
true.
mean,
not
this
not
is
in
the
this
first
one
time, like-
situation.
Really?
Yes, I think there's plenty of other learning opportunities down the road.
Yeah.
And Bobby is who he is. He does what he wants to do. And when
Yeah.
his kids call him and say, "Hey, I don't want to do this anymore," now the question will be what we see next episode with Lara's reaction to that.
Right.
I love that he got the text and looks at her and then runs.
He's like,
She's sleeping.
Yeah, so he made sure that mom was unaware, at least at first. We'll see what comes of it. But actually, Bobby complimented his kids on keeping the phone, being smart. So he's teaching them a certain way.
Yeah.
Right.
Hopefully,
get.
there's no negative repercussions for the kids.
Right.
But there is a danger there.
yeah,
I
no,
think at the
definitely. I mean,
same time.
he is kind of backsliding a little bit and being very lenient, but at the same time, it wasn't just for nothing. I mean, there was still sort of a reward system, like he mentioned, like how it was great that he's kept his phone and he
Yeah.
was smart about that.
Yeah.
So there was sort of a acknowledgement there, and I think that for at least this first like interaction with the real world that these kids have, like you know, they got a sense of it, and hopefully they get more examples and we'll get less high and mighty and
Franks
spoiled.
and beans.
Frank's-
That's
but
their real
There's nothing
world.
wrong with Franks and
No.
Beans, okay?
Yeah.
I like Franks a lot.
But no, I mean, like, if you think about it, they grew up this way in this life of privilege. Like, what you can't just, like a Band-Aid, throw them on the street.
Right.
It's going to take time. Like, obviously, they're not going to like going on a camping trip with, like, strangers that they, like, never interact with without
Right.
their phones and stuff. So, I get it. Like, they made their point. It was, you know, maybe lenient, but also nice of Axe to be, like, the hero dad and
It was
in
a
that
fun
moment.
moment. It gave me a throwback personally. I like that a lot.
There you go.
Next topic I want to talk about that I really find interesting so far is Donnie, the Donnie storyline, being an informant for Rhodes' office while still being an active part of the Axelrod team. And there was an interesting tweet that Brian Koppelman put out. He's the co-creator of the series. He said David Cromer, who plays Donnie, is a MacArthur Fellow, a MacArthur Genius Grant winner for his work as a theater director, which I thought was really interesting.
Wow.
So,
Yeah.
you know, Donnie, who is turning over these flash drives with basically nothing, no legit information, no conversations that are of any value to Brian so far. But there was one moment at the end where Donnie turned over a stick that said, "I think you'll be happy with this," and that didn't. I didn't understand what he was talking about. Was there anything in the show that you saw that would lead you to believe that was on the disc?
No, I think it was just like a quick cut to it, which was weird because it was both dirt roads and you thought it was going to be
hiding in the
Axe.
closet.
Yeah,
Like, that
right.
was weird.
Well,
Well, it goes to see how far Chuck is willing to go to stay involved in this
Right.
case. He doesn't want anybody else to ultimately get the credit for it, or he makes this point with Brian in the speech about how in the aggregate everything, you know, the aggregate of the cases will matter the most.
Right.
And I think he wants to be involved in that. He
Definitely,
wants
which
his little
it still
piece.
shows his obsession with it
Yeah.
too. Like I don't know if this is how he is with all of his cases. Obviously, he's got a personal attachment with how he got involved and his dad and everything like that. But it really shows like how obsessed he is. Like he cannot let it go. Like
Yeah.
he recused himself, or supposedly, and so many times he's shown how he can't handle that. He's been acting completely inappropriately.
Yeah.
Would probably be fired if any of that got out.
Yeah.
So he walks a very fine line, and I think it will probably bite him in the end.
well, the scary thing is that he's convincing himself that that's okay.
Right,
The
it's a
interfering
great
with
grade.
recusing himself.
Yes.
That's not. It's never okay when someone has to convince themselves this is right.
Right.
Yeah, this is definitely right. You know, that's not good. So I think that's gonna get scary for him.
I think for both leading men in this show now, we are seeing them acting out of character and out of bounds. Bobby is not somebody who would take that kind of risk to haul off and punch a guy in the face. And you know, Rhodes seems to be a very by the book, only take cases that you can win type of attorney, and he's going out, really acting outside, like you just said, Andrea. You know, judicial or I guess his prosecutorial duty in staying over Brian's shoulder.
Yeah,
but
being manipulative even.
Yeah,
he's
exactly
manipulating
right.
the shit out of Brian, and poor Brian's like, I'm just trying to do my job.
Yeah.
Can you let me do my job? I'm not doing it for ego. I'm not doing it for notoriety. I'm not doing it for any other reason that I just want to do this job correctly, and so that we don't then have to turn around and say, oh, you put an asterisk next to this case because you interfered.
That's exactly right.
Yeah, and I feel bad for
it's
Brian.
Such a good point. Yeah, Brian's got... When your boss comes to you and says, hey, and this is true in real life in any job that you have, when your boss comes to you and asks you to do something, you're going to do it.
Right.
Yeah, and if it's not something that's going to put you in physical danger or get you convicted of something,
right,
you're going to do it. And Brian does make a good point about integrity, but I think that he makes the right call, honestly. Do you think, JB, that Brian is in a better position having Rhodes over his shoulder, advising him as they're going along?
That's a very difficult question. I think that for him to make that decision, like, he's in an impossible situation. Like, he has to accept Rhodes. You can't tell your boss, no, I don't think. Like, that is literally saying, like, I can do your job better than you, so I'm going to usurp you. So I think he has to accept him in. The problem is, I don't think that he can run it really with Rhodes there, because it's always going to be like a consulting thing. Like, am I doing this well? Like, it's always going to be a check and balances system. And like he even said, he was like, I can't run the case if you're running the case.
Right.
Like,
Exactly.
And I don't even think he's worried about checking with Rhodes.
Right.
It's just that he's going to have to check with Rhodes. Rhodes is going to make him. Look, he's going to pop out of the closet. Like, he's just always going to be there.
Yeah, and I think it also adds a layer of stress and things that Brian has to deal with. Like, I think Brian is capable of handling the case. He's very well qualified. He's very smart. Like, he's got a great team behind him. And I think that the fact that they are doing this thing behind the scenes, illegally, obviously, is just a huge risk that they don't need to be taking.
It really is. And not only does this put Brian in the middle, like you were saying, but also puts Wendy in the middle, too, because Rhodes lied to Wendy about the way that the deal went down and how it got blown up. And she got a little bit of a clue into it today when Axe came into her office and said, think about who had more to lose in that meeting, and ultimately it was Rhodes who blew up that whole deal. I really do believe that. You're free to disagree with me if you want. I don't think either of you will, but that was ultimately Rhodes' design to mess up the deal so that Brian could take over. I think they had agreed to that beforehand. But Wendy is now driven to the point where she's going and looking for other jobs. And she meets this Casey character. What do you think of Casey?
Did any of you watch Rescue Me?
No.
Oh, this guy was on Rescue Me, and he was awesome. He was so great.
He was on Bloodline. I watched that.
Oh, I didn't see that.
Good show. You should check it out.
I really like him as an actor, and I don't know. I can't decide. He's her friend's boyfriend
friend
or
of
something.
A friend.
Friend
Yeah.
of a friend.
Right.
But because Billy is a girl, Billy's a girl. So I don't. And he seems like he's hitting on her all the time, and then he wants things for free. But I think there's a long plan with him and her and Wendy. I think that he's like not charging her commission or not doing things because he might have a long plan for their relationship and their work relationship as well. You never know.
Yeah.
It is weird, right?
Yeah, the motivation
even
is
questioning
interesting.
him.
Like, she did bring it up, and he was like, "No, I don't want to talk about that." Like,
Right. Weird.
Just pretend it didn't happen.
And she's all, you don't have to flatter me.
Yeah, I wonder if, obviously there is some chemistry between them, so I can definitely see that angle. But I wonder if what if it's like connected to Rhodes and everything like that? Like, could it be another way to get her out of the company? Like, he obviously would be aligned with that kind of thinking.
It could also be Axelrod.
But no, I feel like Axe would want to keep her there.
Yes.
So that's the last thing he would do is find like a dream drop scenario for her to leave to.
The big thing that we've learned about this show so far is that nothing is going to be the simple answer. They're never going to give you what you can think of or predict beforehand
Right.
in a grand way, right? So I think JB is on the right track. I think there's something different about this guy more than just wanting to find Wendy another job.
Yes.
I don't think it's a Chuck thing because she reached out to this headhunter, recruiter, himself, and so I don't think it's Chuck's involvement, but there is something else going on with this Casey character. Mm-hmm. And the chemistry thing, that's why I want to rule out the chemistry thing and like her cheating. We've seen so far this season that these marriages are strong and they're not going to be broken up. Bobby gets offers when he's on tour, or when he goes on tour or goes to Canada to view Metallica on tour. Wendy and Bobby are in a hot tub together. There's been a lot of scenes where something extramarital could have taken place and it did not. Mm-hmm. So I don't see that with Casey.
Well, I'm not saying it for her. I'm just saying for him.
I see.
But you also don't know. I mean, agreed. I don't think that's 100% it. I think there's a long game there.
Yeah.
Totally, overall.
Yeah.
But, yeah, can we talk about, by the way, that Wendy and Rhodes lying to each other?
For
the first time. This is like major double-sided
right.
lying.
So they both. Well, I think overall their marriage, we got a little bit more clue into it. They go out to dinner with a couple who is lovey-dovey, as if they're in the honeymoon phase and had just met each other.
Creepy.
A little creepy, but I admired it. The sap in me was just sort of excited about that.
I think on paper it's like everybody wants to believe in that, but can you even believe that is genuine when it's like a marriage of 17 years?
Yeah.
They not only are married for that long and have stayed that way, but they also work together side by side. That means you are literally next to that one person 24/7. 365.
So you agree
that's
with Chuck?
insane.
You agree
Well, no,
with
I mean,
JB's
I
a
just feel
cynic.
that would be hard for me to believe that they would be able to capture and retain that type of intimacy and passion for that long, knowing that they are never apart from each other.
JB, the right woman is coming for you.
Hey,
to make that happen, and then
send her my way. Let's do it.
That's awesome.
Next week, no. What really? I'm just teasing you, but I'd like to think that that's possible out there. But realistically, at first, when you're first getting together, everything is very, very close, and then I think you do kind of, sit where you're supposed to sit.
Get comfortable.
And get comfortable. Yeah.
But I also think that you never know what's going on behind the scenes, and that might
With
be
these
a situation.
characters?
Yeah, you just
Okay.
never know. They're like that at dinner, and they speak like that, but you just never know. It's two different brains. You know what I mean?
Two different brains, two different marriages happening. The contrast between the two was very, very interesting to see. On one side, you have the Rhodeses, who are a little bit cynical and biting toward each other, and then the other side we have this couple who's dreamily in love with each other like teenagers. And then you're exactly right, Andrea, later on in the episode they lie to each other about where they were for the night. Wendy lies about getting drinks with Casey, and Rhodes lies about going to spy on Brian's meeting with his confidential informant. Do you think this is going to cause a wider issue down the road?
I don't understand why Wendy lied because I think Rhodes trusts her as far as men and being around men, but I don't understand why she lied. I think she doesn't trust him now with the whole Axel thing, and I keep saying Axel, it's Axe or Axelrod, but
it's okay.
You know what I'm saying, guys. I just think I think that she's starting to not trust Chuck, because why would she care if he knew that she was looking for a new job? He'd be happy. But I think she also is no, he'll maybe trying to manipulate me to stay or whatever. That's sad to me that all of a sudden she's not trusting him about that.
Yeah, it's scary because they normally have such a strong bond.
Yes, and honest and
their whole relationship is based on honesty, even when it's an anger toward each other. They don't hide their feelings.
They break it down.
And in this episode, they did. JB, did that change anything for you?
It was very interesting. It kind of reminded me of some of the comments from last week on YouTube. A lot of people were talking about the scene where they were in the bathhouse. Obviously, very cool setting. But they were talking about how their relationship is very interesting because that was set up to be kind of a sexual situation, but it wasn't between them. You know, they kept it very professional, very businesslike, which showed how strong their bond really was. So there was a lot of back and forth, people thinking and theorizing about maybe he's recording the session for future use. Yeah. Obviously, we didn't get an answer to that this episode, but that was kind of an interesting theory.
Yeah. Did you have a specific username that you wanted to point out?
Well, yeah, I mean, Cough 2009 brought up the...
Cough? 2009? Like
Cough,
a cough.
K-O-F-T, 2009.
Okay.
She brought up that the relationship was not sexual and how strong the bond really was. You know, obviously the stuff about 9/11 and how they built up the company after that. Then a couple of people were commenting about that. DM mentioned that the confirm maybe Axe and Wendy were a couple years ago and they had gotten past it. Then another J Cashby 3 was the one that mentioned if the session was being recorded.
Cool.
But we'll see. I mean, that's a major prediction.
Cool. Interesting.
For sure.
Those are good predictions out there, guys. Thank you for commenting on our YouTube page. Use that hashtag ABTV Billions out there on Twitter, or comment directly like you just did on the YouTube page and JB quoted. We're able to bring these shows to you for free because of your feedback. So if you leave us a review on iTunes, that's a big help to us, as well as giving us a star review or a thumbs up on YouTube. That helps us let us know that you're out there, that you're enjoying the show. And again, supporting our sponsors. Blue Apron is a big sponsor for us. So we appreciate all of you guys out there for interacting with us. So let's move into our final topic before predictions. Cool. I want to talk about Ari Spiros.
Yes. Wow, that's
a big plot fight. Go ahead.
I mean, he's such a kind of a mousy guy that gets pushed around. So it's interesting to see that he was so dark underneath. I mean, because he seemed like lame but harmless from the get-go, and that's why a guy like Chuck was able to just steamroll him every time. But yeah, it's very curious to see about this whole rape case.
It was a bluff by Chuck because
he brought her in for something else.
Yeah, Kate brought him. Well, he had Kate bring her in for an interview and just took interview notes because she's looking for a job. So that's what she was there for. But her physical presence
was
threw
enough.
Spiros off.
Yeah, that was enough to get what he wanted, which is to dominate Spiros, not have Spiros dominate him and push him around. Yeah. And I thought it was a great move, but it just shows you how smart Chuck Rhodes is.
Yeah.
But it's almost scarily smart. And I just don't know why Rhodes is so obsessed with the Wall Street gang. Like, just even at the end, he says something about, like, nobody you can trust in Wall Street, or whatever he said, right? And so that
there's no good men in Wall Street.
No good men in Wall Street.
Yeah, what's interesting is just his morality. Because I know, I mean, that's why he's sort of set up like the villain, if there was one, in this show. Because he like says everything is for the greater good, like we're doing this for society, for people that believe in us, and at the same time it's like to get that accomplished he's willing to break the rules himself,
right?
And so I don't think that is sending the right message,
which he wasn't doing in the beginning,
right?
That's why we liked him. Now all of a sudden we're seeing he's breaking some rules when they apply, which we don't like.
And he's just being like, even every episode he gets like more and more shady about it. Like, you know, he was a little nasty in the beginning, and then kind of kept his dad at bay and went back, and then sort of fell off the wagon after being this whole recusal thing. That was a step in the right direction. It's like a step forward, 2 steps back.
Right. Yeah, you guys both make great points, and I think specifically to the very beginning of this show, when Chuck refuses to help out one of his dad's friends who is undoubtedly going to go to jail, and ultimately kills himself. So we've gone from that Chuck to this Chuck, who cuts deals with Stephen Birch, and was at the point of potentially cutting a deal with Bobby Axelrod until it got kiboshed. And now to who we're seeing today is skirting the rules on recusal, and he just has this hard on for these financial cases.
Yeah, he's got a huge vendetta.
He's got a huge issue. And you're right, JB. There's criminal cases, there's violence, there's murders. I'm sure there's a lot of other crime happening out there. Obviously, that's not why we tune in and we're watching. The financial world is what this show is all about. But he is tunnel driven focused on this, and it has to have something to do with his wife being there. He can be the big man and show her that he can take down anyone.
Right.
I think that's in play a little bit here.
Maybe.
Yeah.
Ooh. Are you doing a prediction?
No, but we can all do them right now. Predictions.
Little segue.
Your AFTERBUZZ
You just gave me that transition. I love you.
You did it.
You did it.
That's my 18 for the day.
That's right. We miss you, Alina. Come back.
Yeah.
She'll be okay. Okay, so this is the second half of the first season. We've got episodes 8 through 12 left. That's 5 episodes. JB, what do you see coming for the second half?
Ooh, ultimately, I see Axe coming out on top. I know they kind of like played with our emotions a little bit. He was always the main character, but now I feel like he's definitely marked as the hero we are rooting for, and he's gonna beat Chuck. That was such a cool little moment, that photographic memory display that he did. Like, he knew exactly how many people were at the party.
Great point.
Like, could just go back. Such an incredible talent. I would definitely not have been able to do that. And
I told you guys I saw that girl taking video. Did you hear me?
I did not hear you.
You definitely
as soon
spotted
as that was going
as
down,
it was
I was
happening.
like, a girl's videotaping this. A girl's videotaping this. I said it.
Great
Thank you,
attention
thank
to
you.
detail. Good stuff.
Yep.
Good.
You should work for Axelrod.
Thank you.
But no, I definitely think that he really showed like how cool he was, how deserving he is of his success. Like he is superhuman in a lot of ways. He's not.
That's interesting you put it that way. I like that.
Right.
That's true.
I feel like he is worthy of that. Obviously, people kind of bend the rules a little bit. There's some insider trading and what have you. But I don't think he's causing more harm than he is good. And I think that they're making that more and more clear with each episode. And conversely, the opposite with Rhodes. I think that while his message is good, quote unquote, he's getting increasingly corrupt with his methods, and that is going nowhere good.
Andrea.
To piggyback on that, I can see that trickling down the Rhodes lineage, not just affecting Brian anymore, but maybe affecting a few of the other people that work for him, and seeing kind of like how they deal with it maybe along the way. Separately, I think something that we're seeing as like kind of a C story is with the kids now. First, that girl Lily was kind of playing like your kids, weren't you invited to this? 3 episodes ago. Then we have the whole street smarts thing now. We already see that they are smart kids. I think there might be something down the line with them and the rest of their friends and family friends and that kind of thing. And with Lara, I'm excited. We got like a little bite of her today.
Great point.
And I'm really excited about that. I'm ready to see more from her and her relationship with Bobby. Like, let's see how that's gonna affect them down the road, because I think she's scared. And I don't want her to be scared, but she's a really good woman. I think we're seeing that more now. She's his backbone, so I'm excited to see what happens with them.
I think that's a great point. Malin Ackerman did a great job. I thought Paul Giamatti, this was a clinic in acting from him today. And when he had Spiros over the chair, he's like, you get in freaking line. That
He's
was
scary.
great. And he takes the right beats at the right time just to add little poignant moments onto each thing that he was saying. Just a really well acted episode from everybody involved, but those two people specifically. I really liked what you said, Andrea, because Malin Ackerman has the ability, and she's got a compelling storyline now to move forward. My prediction is with Donnie. I think having a confidential informant being a part of the Axe Capable team without Hall knowing about it, without Bobby or Wags or any of them knowing about it, is going to prove damaging to Bobby. I think the tension after last episode has dissipated somewhat, and I think the creators of the show are going to start building it back up again until when we reach the crescendo of this season, you're going to have another situation where it's looking very bad for Bobby, and I think Donnie's going to have an important point to play in that, and I will go ahead and predict that next episode, Donnie's going to capture a damaging conversation on his microphone, and he's going to turn that over to Brian, and that's only going to amp up the pressure again on the Axelrod team.
I just think Axe is so careful with even the words he uses. That he doesn't even say them sometimes. He doesn't say the words. He just, plays around it.
Yeah, but this informant, Donnie,
gets close
goes
to
to the
him.
house
Yeah.
and asks for advice, and he says, wait, or Axelrod says, wait on it. And Donnie doesn't push the issue, which is what we had seen in the past from another informant when he shows up and his hands were sweaty on the chair. Remember all that? So he was pushing, and Bobby recognized it.
Yes.
I think Donnie might be someone who's in place to be believable. And that ultimately it'll damage
He's gonna
it.
play him. Oh, that's sad. I don't want to see that.
Final thoughts, everybody, before we close up shop.
Well, I mean, Donnie's kind of a rat, so like,
He looks like he's
he
going to
can
be
get what he deserves.
But he stood up for himself. I like that.
He stood up for himself.
You know, against Brian and said, "You're making me do this. Of course, I'm not going to get the info you want.
Yeah.
You're making me do it."
Yeah.
So I thought that was cool.
Right.
But at the same time, even when he was in with Wendy having his session, he was withholding things and played. He would say a sentence and then leave no emotion or trace afterward to get an insight into what he was actually thinking.
Right.
For coming from a character where if you look at him the second episode and how he like melts in his chair in that conference room scene, do you remember that?
Yes, I remember.
With all the like derogatory, terrible like innuendos that were being thrown out. He was a certain word then, and now he's like manning up kind of
He's
to
a
his
wimp.
role. Yeah, thank you. There you go.
I know what you wanted to say.
Okay, I know. I hate that one.
All right, well, we'll leave on that.
Pushover, baby.
That's it. That's all for this week, everybody. Thank you so much for tuning in. We will be back next week, and until then, we have been John Blake Zimmerman.
Yes, you guys can find me at Hey John Blake on Twitter and Instagram.
And Andrea Fasano.
Hey guys, for all the words, come to me and find me on Instagram, Periscope, and Twitter at Andy Fasano.
And I am your lead host, Frank Maiorana. You can find me on Twitter and Instagram at Let's Go Frankham. Thanks so much for tuning in this week. We will be back. We have another episode next week, so we'll be back here same time, same channel. Until then, we are not uncertain.
Nice.
From executive producers Maria Menounos, Kevin Undergaro, Phil Svitek, and the entire AfterBuzz TV staff, we would like to thank you for listening to the AfterBuzz TV network. To watch or listen to other after shows and post comments or questions, be sure to visit AfterBuzzTV.com. I'm Sir Richard Wentworth, and this has been a presentation of AfterBuzz TV.
Buzz you later.
The views expressed herein are those of the hosts only and do not necessarily reflect the views of AfterBuzz TV or its owners or principals.